bartender brings it to him and he's looking at it. And everybody else around him is cursing and then he's looking at him. And finally the bartender came up to him and told him, "You know what, sir, let me tell you something." He says, "You make a lousy sinner." Are you with me? Where would you go? You've already gone too far, say. So they cross over, and their first battle is approaching. And they're coming to Jericho. And everything that he learned from Moses is being put to play. Say it with me. Everything he learned from Moses is being put to play now. It's being put into action. You will always be tested to see what you're really made out of, to see what you really got. The test will come. Believe me, after every word that we preach, sometime soon we get tested. Are you with me? We get tested to see if we're going to do what we preached. Amen? So in Jericho, we find this here. Now I want you to see something because, amen, they were coming to possess a land flowing with milk and honey. And chapter 6, verse 1 and down, I want you to see this. I want you to see what God is looking at now. He's speaking to Joshua the way he would speak to Moses. And look what it says here. Now Jericho was straightly shut up because of the children of Israel, and none went out and none came in. They're facing their first obstacle. And they're faced with a fortified city with walls that were so huge and so big. And they needed to have character together with faith in God. Are you with me, church? They needed to have that. Joshua needed to have that. And here Joshua faced with a city that had walls that were so huge, and they used to run chariot races on top of the walls. These walls were not cinder block walls. They were not these little walls that we see around the city that you can just knock them over if you walk by them and push them over. Amen. These were fortified walls. These were huge walls, thick walls. In fact, they used to have houses built inside the walls. If you remember when the spies went out to spy the land, amen, and Rahab hid the spies, amen, she let them out the side of the wall, right out of her window. Are you with me, church? So look at this. He's looking at this, and he's giving us a description because I want to tell you something. If there's anything that the devil wants to do, especially in this hour and this time, is to keep you away from everything that God has in store for your life. I said to keep you away from everything that God has in store for your life, for every victory, for the salvation of your family. I mean, for everything that you need that God has already promised to give you. You know, there's a lot of people when they're going through trials and problems, there's a lot of people that believe that God is a bad God because he's allowing these things. But he's not a bad God. He's a good God. How many know he's a good God? It was God who sent Jesus to die on the cross for us. It was God who made a way. Come on, are you with me, church? He made a way for you and I. Amen. Now, they're looking at the city and it's fortified. Everything they need is there. This is one of the biggest obstacles they're fighting. And look at verse 2. And he says, and the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho. Say Jericho. Now this is what God was saying to Joshua. And this is what God says to many of us, but we can't see it because we're looking at things differently, or we're focusing in other areas instead of focusing in the place that God intends for us to focus. Instead of looking at the things the way God sees them, we see them in a different other way of life or another way of thinking. And God looks at this and he says to us, he says this to Joshua, he says, see Jericho. Say it with me, see Jericho. He said, don't see the wall. Don't look at the fortified city. Don't look at the walls that are surrounding the city. He said, I've given Jericho to you. Everything they needed, every breakthrough they needed was at the other side of that wall. Amen. What are you going through tonight? What are you facing tonight? What kind of trial are you going through tonight? And you have your eyes focused on that trial. You have your heart just totally focused on that problem, and you just can't shake that problem off because you have your eyes focused just on that one thing. You can't see beyond the trial. You can't even see beyond the obstacles that the enemy has placed before you. You can't see beyond that. All you can see is the fortified walls that the enemy has placed around you. You can't see the victory on the other side. You can't see the promise on the other side. You can't even see the blessing on the other side. You can't see your family being saved on the other side. You can't see anything on the other side because you're focusing on the walls that the enemy has put in front of you. You see, listen to me tonight. There's a lot of people that run from character building. And there are some people that think that they're mature because they're already adults and they're up there in age. But yet their spirit has no maturity. And so what happens is that when you face these situations and problems, instead of looking at them and looking beyond that problem and seeing what God has in store for you at the other side of that situation, you're caught up with the problem. Amen. How many are with me tonight? Amen. But see, when a person has character, when a person is obedient, when a person loves the presence of God, when a person is a follower, see, when a person is protective with the things of God, he doesn't see that as being an obstacle. Come on, are you with me tonight? Yes. I said, are you with me tonight? Yes. All he knows is that he's going to win this thing. Yes. Are you with me, church? Amen. Go with me. And he tells him, and the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. Verse 3, he begins to give him instruction. There's no use to getting instruction if the instruction will not be followed. Amen. Let me say that again. There's no sense in giving a person instruction if the person does not intend to follow the instruction. If you bake a cake And I know most of you women that bake, and some men that bake. I know that if you bake a cake and you don't follow the instructions, you don't put all the ingredients into that mix or whatever you want to call it. Amen. Don't ever put me to make a cake for you. I'd rather order it from Safeway. One day, Sister Sandy's aunt had her, she was my landlady, and she had her door handle broken in her car, and she used to have to, she had a little piece of the door handle left, and she would have to work at opening the door through that. And one day she went and bought the door handle, but it had to be put in. It had to be assembled and then put in. And I wanted to be a good Samaritan. And I said, "Sister, I'll put it in for you." So I went and took her door apart, took that other door handle off, everything, put the other one. I put it in exactly like the other one. And when she went out there to open her door wouldn't open. So we had to get somebody else to do it. So then the next time I looked, her tub was leaking a lot of water. And I says, "I know what's wrong with your tub." And she says, "What?" I said, "It's that seed inside the faucet there." It says, "If you let me change that, it'll stop." So sure enough, I took it off, went and bought one, put it in for her, and it never stopped leaking. And she told me, "Brother, I appreciate everything you're trying to do." She said, "But you better just stick to preaching." She said, "Let this other stuff for somebody else." Amen? But if you don't follow instruction, then there's no sense in having instruction. If God gives you instruction, it's because He has a purpose for the instruction. Are you with me? Amen. Their obedience, say their obedience, was now being tested. Now God was going to test to see everything that Joshua had learned and been developed into, and now he was going to test the people of God to see if when Moses laid his hand on Joshua, if they had caught anything. See, it wasn't the main ones that went into Canaan, it was their children that went in.